Hello, everyone. Thank you for all joining me again. We are going on our fifth episode of Cutting the Red Tape. Today, I got a special guest with me. Hopefully, he can give you guys some great insight on his story, his trials, his tribulations, and we'll go from there. And I think you guys are going to be really impressed with him and his story, and just how he's out there and how he's trying to make it. So, definitely, without further ado, sir, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Marcus, for the introduction. It's an honor to be on your show. I know that we've had a new and fresh relationship, but a fruitful one. So again, I appreciate the time, come on here and speak. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is Jeffrey Ensor. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. Served the United States Navy for about 3.5 years. Currently was working out here in Phoenix, Arizona, for Fox Sports as a cloud engineer. Unfortunately, was in an accident, back in September, which I call kind of the a defining moment or a binary event, if you will, that kind of led me to where I'm at now. Being 31 years old, being successful, and kind of even with the trials and tribulations in my life, kind of the steps that I took to get me to where I'm at. Before we, start at the end, we'll go to the very beginning. So, I was born in '91. I actually was born into the system, right? My parents gave me up for adoption. Don't know who my parents are. Don't know who I am in the sense of I don't know where I come from, right? But I was very fortunate enough in '93. My parents, what I call my parents, came and got me in '93 and provided me a life that I could only imagine or hope for, right? In the sense of opportunity, not so much wealth, but just opportunity, and just I could do whatever I want. I just had to do it, right? And so that kind of started my life out in '93. As I grew up, I grew up on a farm in Gastonade County, Missouri. You can look it up. You could probably find it. You don't need any maps, but that place is still there, right? So I'm old school. I'm old fashioned in the sense that my brothers used to drag us around in the mud. My brothers, both worked blue collar. My dad had his own businesses. My mother was a nurse in the city, so our kind of homestead was in the country, and that's a lot of where I learned kind of the fundamentals, that I later applied to my life. You work hard to get where you're at. I remember as a young boy, my father pulled me down to the lake and saying, hey, nobody owes you anything. People aren't going to like you, and unfortunately, because of your skin color, but you can either sit there and mope around for the rest of your life, or you can go out there and become something. And that was in the lake back in '95. So again, I kind of always had like the fundamentals as an upbringing. As I went on to my older life, I didn't really experience any type of like, I don't want to say racism, but like I'd say that I didn't know that I was black until I moved into the city. And a lot of my brothers asked me, well, why do you talk like that? And to me, my response would be, I talk like a human being, right? But
Right.
again, that would go on to show kind of, the things that were going on at the time. And my parents did a real good job of kind of shielding that from us. So I went throughout high school. I wasn't a stellar student, but I wasn't like a below average. I'd say that, I was a stubborn individual as far as I was always able to deliver, but I never understood the fundamentals of like doing the hard work at first. So then I wouldn't have to go back as, so hard and have to work so hard to achieve the grades that I achieved. Right. When 9/11 happened, my brother was enlisted in the Air Force. And I remember getting that phone call from him as he went down range to Iraq. And, he said to me, this is just what we do. And that was always something too that kind of defined me and, it's got me to where I'm at in my life as well. Is when you're called to do something that's greater than yourself, there's no and ifs about it. You just do it, right? And this is again coming from, my uncle also was a police officer. He was Caucasian. I know that doesn't matter, but again, I kind of grew up in this. It's not about the skin color thing. It's about doing the right thing, regardless, of what skin color you are, who you are, what walk of life you're from. So that was his first deployment. He came back, fortunate enough, he didn't lose his life. He lost a lot of friends. And then again, I don't know if you remember that time, he went back again for
Yes.
his second deployment, right? And he was in the Air Force. So a lot of stuff that they did was like the forward operating stuff. Those guys are there first and taking care of business. Came back again, didn't lose his life, but it obviously changed him. He did lose a lot of people that he cared about. A lot of those people were brown men, right? So with that being said, we had another conversation. That conversation was, you can't let those people that went out and fought for a greater good, you can't let that, die in vain, right? And that's what sparked me into joining the United States Navy back in 2013, just because, my family's got a history of just, selfless service, right? And it's actually what makes me whole. So I joined the United States Navy in 2013, kind of foreshadow back a little bit. I was expecting my first child as well, right? So you got to understand that lit a fire up my butt, because I want to be able to provide for my son and, give him, a life worth fighting for, just because of my history, being born. And, I'd like to think that my parents probably think that they couldn't do it because, what was going on at the time. And so I didn't want my son to ever feel like, he had to give up on something. And so I wanted to set him up for success.
How old were you when you were going into the Navy?
So this is 2013. So let's 19. Yeah, I guess 19, 20. Yeah.
And a child as well?
Yeah, and I was expecting a child. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So 19, expecting a child, and you're jumping into war.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now, granted, I didn't have a war job, but that's just,
But
wasn't
still,
my fault. The Navy, yeah, the Navy just gave me that job. But anyways, yeah, there was a lot on my plate. Again, my upbringing and kind of my backstory, I was worried about that, right? So, but again, I knew that this would be the right path because my brother had did it, and it was about this selfless service, right? And again, I believe that the selfless service, it gives back in troves. And kind of my life, the rest of my story, I would have picked that. So yeah, so joined the Navy. I was young. I had a not super stellar career, as well. I probably got in trouble, numerous of times, but I was able to, kind of the military motto is, break them down and build them back up, and just my leading petty officer would say all the time was just like, dude, you'll take like 3 steps forward and then just like 10 steps back, and just kind of like that would be the reoccurring theme. And so it wasn't a good thing, but it was just like answer's gonna bounce back, it was just like he's gonna get it right. And that just was unfortunately kind of my military career. Unfortunately, towards the very end of my military career, I, made a moral career or a moral decision that ended my career short. I think I was about technically 3 months short of my first EOS, right? And everybody's just like, what was going on. And it's a time of my life. You got to understand too, I joined the service to provide for my family. When I got back home, my son's mother had decided to be with somebody else at the time. Now, because of a good man that I am, I had to walk away, right? Because I can't. My father at a very young age said, if a woman doesn't want you, the best thing you can do is walk away. And I'll give it to you guys raw. She had me gunned down in the front yard. I'm in full Navy uniform, and I remember the arresting officer at the time said, dude, like this is like this is shitty. Like here this man is, he's serving his country, he's in his use, and we're having to tell him that, hey, you can't do anything about it because you technically don't have rights to your son. And that's that broke my back. And so unfortunately, after learning this news, I'm at a moral injury that to myself that ended my Navy career, right? Kind of, I just got out early, 3 months early. But with that being said, I kind of already had this knack for accomplishing.
that's amazing. So did you guys have communication with you and your ex while you were in the Navy?
So initially, right. So during boot camp, yes. But then it was like I graduated boot camp and I came home and it's like, oh, I'm not the only dude she's write letters to. You know what I mean?
Uh,
So it's kind of like it's a messed up, I think a jarhead, right? They laugh about it, right? But that's kind of the fact of the matter is, right? Because while you're gone, there's life still happening, back home, and you either know about it or you don't know about it. And sometimes you got to find out the hard way. And that's just, I found out the hard way. And that's okay. I respect her. My son, the man that is his stepfather, he's a good man. I wouldn't have any other way. But it is something that I carried around with me, right? That's the whole reason why I joined, was to provide for my family. And now I'm coming home and I can't even do that. That's just kind of like I could have, but you gotta understand the type of man that I was. I wasn't, at the time I had all the power in the world to do that, but she was a little bit younger, and it's just like I'm not trying to be a reckoning force, right? My parents went through the divorce, so it's just like, all right, I could be that guy, but it's like I'm not really trying to be a guy to prove a point, and just unfortunately that's just what happened. So I got out early. I was upset about this whole issue with my child not being able to see my son. But again, I'm a firm believer in God. My dad is a Lutheran pastor. It's just like, there's a particular reason why this happened, and it's not made to break me. It's made to make me stronger and to carry on. And that's what I did, right? So shortly after separating from the Navy, I had the fortune enough to work for Amazon. I think I was separated for about 6 months. Now, I'm not going to say that it was an easy 6 months, right? Because there's a lot of relearning to be had, because a lot of the things that we say in the military, you can't say out in the civilian world, right? There's that mindset in the military, whether you're pushing paper or you're on an aircraft carrier, it's just different, right? Because it's the things in the civilian world, it's not tip of the spear and nobody's going to lose your life. Maybe, I remember even walking into Amazon and, they were just like, why are you so calm? And I'm just like, well, nobody can die, just like, no, they're just looking at me like, what's wrong with this guy? But it just goes to talk about kind of that the different mental attitude and kind of, are you dealing with things that are tip of the spear or you're not? And so it's actually something I did struggle with, and I probably wasn't ready to admit it, but I think that when you come out of the military, you do have a sense of pride, right? You've accomplished something, and especially at a young age, at 18 or 19, most kids aren't picking up their things and saying, hey, I'm going to do this and then complete it. They're still trying to figure out what they want to do. So you do have a sense of pride, and you should be prideful of the accomplishment that you had in the military. But unfortunately, I didn't have a good coach or kind of like hey, this is how it goes in the civilian world. And so I struggled, even though, and I don't mean like, I lost my jobs, not because, again, it was that mental difference, right? You can't have the same conversations with individuals, they don't understand the lingo, right?
It's
So I
very
struggled with
different.
that. Yeah, yeah. I worked in Amazon for about 2.5 years. I suffered from some mental health issues, that I wasn't ready to admit, after I separated. But once I was able to get the help, that's when my life became better. So, I worked in Amazon for about 2.5 years, but in my life, it's all about positioning yourself, right? I remember working with the individual and he said, you're smart. And I just said, I'm just sitting there typing on the computer. I was like, what are you talking about? He's just like, there's something about you. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? He's just like, he said this to me, and it's a pinnacle and something I applied to my life. He said, remember, watch the puck on the ice, right? It's about being in the right places at the right time. Where I'm at in my life, people say that it's luck. It's not luck. I said earlier, it's God's favor, but it's about positioning yourself, with the skills that you have at the right time. And that's all that I've done with my life. I'm not some superstar, right? I do the studying when it needs to be done, but it's those small little principles, right? And so that's what's allowed me to kind of accomplish the success to where I'm at now. But again, it's through other people, right? These lessons that I've learned through other people, and being open and being willing to tell my story. So after I left Amazon, I knew I wanted to get in IT, right? I had a knack for it, but I didn't know that I had a knack for it, right? It's just kind of one of those things. You're just like, oh, I'm actually good at this. So I have the hopes of working, for AWS at, Amazon Web Services, but sometimes, God will derail us for a good reason. Dude, I'll tell you, I had this particular boss that she just did not like me, dude. It didn't, I could get to work early. She just thought, because we came from different backgrounds, she just thought that I could be doing more. But part of my leadership style is you have to empower other people, right? I can do the work for you all day, but I have a thing about like guiding people, right? Whether they like acknowledge it or realizing it, but that's just how my leadership style is, right? And so I lost my job, because of a dispute and just things were not going well. But it led me into my next role, right? So for about I think 6 months, I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I was just like, yo, you got to get into IT. You've been saying you want to do this. No, how can you do it? There was two people at the time. The VA was offering a program called Vet Tech, and then there was another individual who I actually work for now. So you see how things are coming full circle. His name is Broadus Palmer, right? And he gave a story and talked about how he's a banker and he knew that he could, achieve this wealth through cloud technology. It was about how to get there. So my eyes and ears were open. I'm just like, you know what? I had done all these things in the past and I've accomplished them. It's like, this is the next thing. This is what I'm going to do.
So explain to me
Um,
what that is, cloud technology. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
yeah. So I think the best way to explain cloud technology and the best way that I explain it to people is think of Blockbuster. Back in the day, you're able to go into a store, rent a movie, return it when you wanted it, given you'd pay the fee. If you didn't pay the fee or, you kept it for too long, you would get charged. Think of cloud computing in that sense. Companies, they rent resources from, like an on-site data center. So before in the past is companies would have their data center and stuff on premise, right? But it was a big cost. With cloud computing, they're able to cut that cost in half, outsource it to somebody like AWS for a fraction of the price, and then essentially select what movies, et cetera, what resources, instances and stuff like that at a fixed price. And the reason why companies are moving towards it is because it saves them money, right? They're not having to hire people to just run their data center and stuff like that. That's kind of my best analogy for kind of what cloud computing is, right? But cloud computing is also able, to empower people's lives. And even this platform happening right now is via cloud computing, and then also LEO satellites in orbit right now. But it's crazy, right? And I'm hoping that people dive into it because it can change your life, right? I think the biggest kind of roadblock I hear is like, I was just telling a young brother in the store, I was just like, I started my own company. And I said, you need to come work for me. He said, I don't do computers. I'm not Indian. And I'm just like, I remember being that age and kind of having that same, like misconception. I was just like, dude, you don't got to be Indian to work computers, bro. And just like, so I'm hoping that, I can empower people. That's just, I'm hoping we can change that narrative. Just like, dude, you don't got to be Indian to work in IT. I'm 31 years old, a brother. And look, I don't even have a college, I have an associate's degree. I don't have a bachelor's degree, but anybody can do this. If I can do this, given the things in my life, then you can do it too. But again, I'm hoping that we can change that narrative of, oh, you're you got to be Indian to do that. I'm like,
Right.
do you not know how, how all this works, man? Like there's, whether it's your phone or whether it's a POS system, there's a cloud computing system involved. It's just, deep diving, figuring out what that is and, taking a look at
So
it.
as you mentioned, I'm sure there's several factors to cloud computing. What is your role in this space? Is it security? Is it, setting up the overall like what is your specific role in this?
So that's what I would say that I'm not awesome, but just like I have that flexibility. So I consider myself a DevOps engineer, right? So what I tell people is I have multiple disciplines across different systems, right? I don't have a focus in systems. I don't have a focus in security or a focus in IAM. Developmental ops, right? And so what that means is incorporating system and processes to make it work for your particular organization. So a lot of times when I'm doing interviews, they'll say, "Oh, we need a security person." It's like, well, I didn't go to school for 4 years and become a security engineer, right? I have security best practices because I'm a DevOps engineer and I know the best practices across multiple systems, right? And a lot of that is because of my hands-on work that I had at Fox, but nonetheless, um, that's the hot topic right now because whenever you're able to have multiple disciplines across different systems, you know how all the systems work, right? You don't just have a lot of the job requests I get are, oh, we need just a systems admin for, GitHub or just this. And that's fine. And I'm willing to do that job because it's not a lot of work, to be honest. You're just managing one system. But yeah, my particular role in the DevOps cloud space is, DevOps, right? I know multiple systems. I can utilize, multiple systems, spin them up and, make them work for the organization, if you will.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so now we're going back to the story. So now you're leaving Amazon and you're getting into this new role. So take
Right.
me position.
So, but it's all about the progress, right? It's not always how you want it to be. So I had this experience, right? I just did logistics for Amazon for 2.5 years. I just got out of the Navy. I'm a young guy. Who picks me up? Anheuser-Busch picks me up on a contract to do logistics for him. Now, I was hesitant because I knew I was so passionate. I wanted to do cloud. I was just like, what are the odds of me, getting this job in logistics, which I'm trying to get out of? And, I'm trying to do this pivot towards cloud computing. I get this job at Anheuser-Busch. But it's all about proper planning and execution. I knew that Anheuser-Busch was going to migrate a lot of their stuff onto a new platform utilizing Azure. So I remember when I saw the job rec and I said, hey, I can go in and do this, showing that I'm interested in this and showing, what I can do. At the same time, I had just gotten my vet tech, like not voucher, but just, he had to, went through vocational rehab essentially to utilize this benefit that the VA was giving out, not giving out, but just that's what I used. That was like the mode or method that I used was my vocational rehab to get into this program. So that was a cohort for about 6 months, and it was hands-on Azure, like kind of how I'm a DevOps now. It was like kind of like disciplines across different systems, security plus, networking plus. And they were primarily migrating a lot of their on-premise infrastructure to Microsoft Azure. So again, proper planning and proper execution. But then, God has a weird way of, showing us where we need to go, So this is during COVID, right? And I remember when this happened and I lost my job, a week prior to COVID, they were like, oh, you're not going to lose your job. And then it was, no one expected COVID to be this bad, and I know a lot of people died and, it was a very unfortunate thing, but nobody could have expected that. But again, I had this resiliency about me. I was just like, you know what? There's something bigger and better out there for me. So after I went through this cohort for about 6 or 7 months, I was interviewing with people like crazy. I didn't really have any practical skills, right? So the cool thing about cloud computing, we all know what it is. We just don't know how to translate it, right? Because we're on the user end, right? We interact with it every day, but we don't know the makeup of how it works, right? And so that's where I was, is I had a good, understanding because, working at Anheuser-Busch, they're computer and technology centric. They had just moved their logistics command centers to St. Louis. So, I mean, it's all technology, right? And cloud computing and how it works. It just was being able to explain that, and to somebody and breaking it down and saying, hey, this is how this works. So I was interviewing like crazy. I wasn't having a lot of luck. I was kind of just like, I felt that I was ready, right? I had just went through all this stuff. I kind of would say that I came back, if you will. And, I'm not getting, I'm having job interviews, but, it's always sucks when you're on the third one and, you're really going to think you're getting the job and they don't give you the job. You're just like, all right, we just went through 3 interviews. Why am I not getting this job?
Right.
So Fox finally picked me up as a cloud engineer and I was very thankful for that. And so, but there's a backstory to that. So Fox finally picked me up as a cloud engineer and I was excited. And, it was a great time of my life, right? Because I would say that I went through a lot of unnecessary things. And don't get me wrong, a lot of it was, because of decisions that I made, but just I'd been through a lot, right? And I had overcome things that I would think that, a normal person wouldn't be able to overcome. And that includes, kind of navigating the VA, getting into the right programs in the right spots, but the unfortunate thing is like, why did that even have to happen, right? I will say the VA is doing a great job now of kind of making that easier for people, but just, it's hard, right? You're having to, I'm having to find records from, 6 years ago and, reach, it's just, it's daunting. You're on track and you have this one task, but you also got this like, okay, well, this is important too, dude. You got to make sure that this is correct, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I got this job with Fox and I had an oral surgery. A lot of people don't know this. So I had a surgery that went wrong. And, it's kind of why, I get upset sometimes, but at the start of my career, at the pinnacle of where I'm about to take off, I had this oral surgery, that, I messed up my mouth. I got a hole in my mouth. So that's kind of how I started my career out, right? I got this hole in my mouth. I'm happy where I'm at, but I'm dealing with this issue, right? That's like, no one's trying to help me out. I'm not getting any help, right? So this went on for 2 years. I'd say that I'd had a um, I have a I have a constant kind of like trajectory, right? But it wasn't like I didn't skyrocket like this. It just was kind of like I'm doing what I need to do to get by. I'm going through the motions. I'm not happy personally because I know that I'm better and I can do better, right? But I also have this thing that people aren't aware about. I got this hole in my mouth that's like, it's not a good thing. So fast forward, maybe I wasn't making a lot of the right decisions because of said hole in my mouth. I was in an injury, a car crash back in September, and I call this a binary event, which kind of propelled me to where I'm at today. Right. So I didn't just lose my car, I lost my job, I lost my housing, I left it all. But I tell people, in my darkest hour, I gave it all away because God's had something better for me, essentially, right? I wasn't on the right path. Denzel Washington will say, when you're doing wrong, the devil will leave you alone. But when you're trying to do the right thing, the devil will come at you. And, I look at that situation as, again, a defining moment in my life that allowed me to, again, pivot and to bring you, before this individual that you're speaking with today. So that happened. And so you got to understand, I still have responsibilities and bills to pay. At the end of the day, that's still my son back home and he needs to be provided for, right? So I had a decision in that moment, right? Because, I'm able to walk now. I wasn't walking probably, 3 months ago when this initially happened. I wasn't getting help, it was horrible, right? And yeah, I had a decision there to, deal with it in the wrong way or deal with it in the right way. And dealing with it in the right way included, reaching out to people and saying, hey, I need help, and saying, hey, I'm not right now, not because I'm not right or I'm a mess up individual. It's just like I was in this accident, and just, these things don't just happen to people, right? And it was just so horrific, I just like, I wanted to give up, but I was able to lean on some people and they're able to like, steer me and guide me in the right direction. But again, it was because of those actions that I took. I could have let this accident determine me for the rest of my life, dude. And it's still a touchy subject for me, but that perseverance and just, I believe that God has brought me here to Arizona for a particular reason, and that's to empower other people, right? And I just couldn't let that be the pinnacle, right? And the unfortunate thing is, I hear this, well, you got lucky, and it's like, again, luck has nothing to do with where I'm at. People are going to be mad where you're at, despite your history and your background, because they haven't amounted or accomplished that. And that's just, it's factual. It's what it is. I'm not upset, but there's nothing you can do about that, right? And people will come for you.
People gonna hate you when you're doing bad. People gonna hate you when you're doing good.
And I'm telling people, when you're able to understand that it's, again, my father said, he's just like, they're not gonna like you. You know what I'm saying? That was just like dude, it doesn't matter. You have to do you. You know what your purpose is. Just shoot for the stars. And if the thing is, and even where I'm at now, is people are always going to be critics, right? People are going to say, well, you should have done this better. You should have done this. But it's like, the reason why you feel some way to speak about it is because you see what I've accomplished despite those bad decisions. And you know what I'm saying? It's more so people are always going to say things, right? So you just, with that being said, you have to carry on. So that's exactly what I did. I carried on. I actually, from this accident 2 years ago, when I did take the job with Fox, my father always instilled in my mind about, working for yourself and the importance of writing your own paycheck, essentially, right? And
Mhm.
that is the American dream, right? That is what America was built on. Now, especially being a service member back home, that was something that riddled me with fire. I'm just like, yeah, that's why I left, to build a better America, and that's how it should be. Is people should be able to go to work for themselves, right? You hear this kind of talk of, well, people don't want to work. If you, I've been interviewing with a lot of people. If you want to give me another job, I'm more than willing to take a job. But it's just that, like, you could put forth so much effort into yourself and reap the benefits
Yep.
of trying to go and work for somebody else. And that's what I want to try to paint the picture for people is. So 2 years when I got here in Arizona, I had an idea. I was just like, I'm really into space. I used to watch Apollo 13 all the time when I was younger. Don't, my dad was a real big movie buff. John Wayne and Apollo 13 were probably, those are the things that I watched growing up. So I've always had this kind of, I always like was fascinated with space. My brother was stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base, home of the B-2 bombers. And, I had opportunities to see those when they took off. I had opportunities to go down into the ICMB, silos, back in the day. So I, again, had that opportunity. When I got here in Arizona, I'm just like, I'm here for a reason. And my uncle, who actually just retired from Boeing as a chemist, I was just like, yo, I could launch rockets. And people are like, that's crazy, like you couldn't do that. And I was just like, why can't I? I remember having discussions with people like, that were living with me at the time. And it's like, well, why can't I do that? And so what I call is that manifestation happened, 2 years, I got the job with Fox, but at the same time, I still had this manifestation in my brain that, hey, I'm going to do something big, do something that's going to benefit myself and other people like me. So I officially started the company, I'd say 5 months ago during the accident, right? So Problem Solved Aerospace is we're going to start with where I can start with, right? It's a cloud consulting business, right? But the big picture is rockets and satellites is what make cloud computing happen, right? Again, in orbit right now, there are LEO and GEO and MEO satellites orbiting the Earth to make this kind of communication happen, right? And I just so happen to know the fundamentals and kind of the background of how that works. So I started this aerospace company, and I remember my mentor now. He's actually with SCORE here in Arizona. He's just like, you're a miracle, because nobody thought that, from this accident that I would be able to recover, start a business. And, I'm talking to a lot of good people, and they're just like, this dude's a miracle. He's got it, right? So just um, that's what happened, right? I started this business. At first, I wanted to be rockets, right? And people said, that's crazy. You can't do that. Like you need to focus on what you can do right now. My mentors say that all the time right now. It's like you can do it. You're in a good spot in your life because you've had all these experiences. You don't have, I'd say the jack of all trades and master of none. Some people take that as a bad thing, but that can sometimes be leveraged as a good thing, right? So as a consultant, I'm able to go in and say, hey, you can utilize this system A, B, and C and hook it up this way. And that's kind of where I position myself, right? Where I'm at in my life has nothing to do with luck. It's just proper planning and execution. And through the grace of other people that have helped me out and kind of like steer me in the right direction, I was able to sit down after this accident, forming a plan on how I was going to overcome this. Now, don't get me wrong. You'll probably see me out with like a limp or something. And, I may be disgruntled because it's still a pain point, right? You think of trauma or anything that happens to your life, there's always going to be some type of event or something that that sparks it, that makes you upset. So it's been a very, great learning opportunity. But I'd like to highlight, kind of my experience in the Navy, right? And why I am the way that I am today, right? Is that's what hardened me. It's, break them down, build them back up, right? Those hard times aren't meant to break you. They're meant to make you into the person that you need to be. God says that, the people that broke you down, he'll build you up in front again. And I'm a prime example of that. Just again, this event was made to break me and to cause my life to go down a spiral, which it could have, but it hasn't. I've been able to take this incident, turn it around and make it something that's fruitful. And I'm hoping that I can inspire other people that are like me, to do the same thing, because the thing is we've all been through something, right? Every day somebody is going through something, but it's about the actions that we take every day to make this place better for everybody, right? So, I truly believe that a lot of the pain and grief that this world suffers is, I mean, it's all things that we've done, right? Not maybe not us personally, but just as a whole society, right? A plus B equals C, and that's just the fact of the matter. It's not. No one needs to be a rocket scientist to just understand that. And that applies to your own life as well. I'm not trying to come on here and say that I'm the pinnacle of a saint, because I'm not, but just, if everybody can get on the same kind of like mindset, that's, things will progressively get better. And I do see that things are getting progressively better.
I'm going to highlight two things that you said. Number one, going out and doing something on your own, starting something your own, whatever the case may be. I think nowadays too many people are afraid to fail. Failure is where you learn. Failure is where you're going to learn those valuable lessons. If you don't ever go out and fail, if you don't ever go out and try anything, man, you're not going to be anything. You're just going to be sitting in the matrix, continue to do what you do, be in the status quo, living underneath the rock, and just the world's going to pass you by. You will never, ever, probably do anything great because you never wanted to challenge yourself because you were too afraid to go out there and fail. You think I want to, all the criticism, again, number two things I'm going to highlight from you that, hey, I'm going to go do this. And how many people tell you, nope, you can't do that. No,
Everybody.
that why you're a fool, you're crazy, ha ha ha, look at this idiot, he thinks he's going to go ahead and start this YouTube channel, Veterans Fighting Knives, launch rockets, whatever the case may be. And you know what, hey, all right, man, it's all good. You know what, you don't have to worry about me, don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep on grinding day in and day out. So I appreciate the story, and I definitely appreciate you just highlighting the struggle, man, and kind of coming from nothing all the way up to something and just building yourself back up. I appreciate it.
No, and I appreciate you, Marcus. And again, I said this earlier. The reason why people say that is because either A, they're trying to support you, or A, they know that you got it, right? And even you starting your YouTube channel, and I think of my other mentors who kind of went the same route. This is where it starts, right? It starts small, but in 2 years it'll be like, wow, Marcus has got like 500 followers. Or, it's just like, it's about taking that first step. And you said it, like, if you don't fail, you'll never learn. I'm not successful in my life because I made all the right decisions in my life at the right time. It's because I made all the wrong ones at the right time, and I learned from them, and I was able to learn from them and then apply, certain things to my life. That's why, I'm at in my life, right? And so again, I want to highlight a point, that failure part, it's important, because I think a lot of us, when we're raised, right, what is the number one word we are told growing up? No. And I mean, like when you're trying to grab something, it's no. So we kind of, unfortunately self-sabotage ourselves, and we have this ingrained no about us, right? But the Navy taught me, dude, you got to go shoot for the stars, and you got to do it. Because I remember at boot camp, right? And just me, I got in trouble again, and I'm staying at attention, and the command chief comes in, and it's swim day, right? But little did they know I'm a swimmer. I grew up on a farm, we had a lake, so they weren't expecting this. I think I stood at detention for about 3 hours, but she's just like, you got one chance, or you're going home, Ensor. And boy, did I skid across that pool. And I remember getting out, and my chief, the command chief's just like, boy, that, he could sure swim, just kind of like, so you just gotta take that jump and that leap forward, right? Because if you don't, you're gonna be 5 years from now, you're just like, man, I really wish I made that decision. Even if my, problem solve aerospace isn't successful, and I know it will be successful. Whether I launch rockets, I know that my son will. And, it may not, I can't predict tomorrow, I can't predict the rest of the day. But, where I'm at right now, the trajectory that it's going, it's looking that could be a possibility. I know I sent you that thing from NASA. Like, look at how, you know what I'm saying? Like, wow, how did I just position myself to be, you know, what I'm saying? So just, you have to just take that leap, and you're going to have trials and tribulations, and you're going to struggle. But at the end of the day, even if you're not successful, I talked with a gentleman down in Mississippi, and I think he was supposed to be, riding on one of the Challenger missions, but he said, um, it was okay that he didn't make that mission because he still supports, NASA in another sense, right? And so he says, maybe that was, again, God intervening and saying, hey, I don't need you to ride on that rocket, but he's still able to support it. So he talks about, if you don't make that decision, you're going to be my age, like, oh man, I really wish I would have, what do you got to lose? The worst thing you got to lose is, again, people are looking at me like, yo, you can't launch rockets. I was like, I don't have the capability today to do it, but I have a great network, and I have people. Again, my uncle was a chemist at Boeing, so he'll probably sit on the board. These are all things that can happen. It's just that you have to believe that they can happen and take the actions and steps towards that. And again, I think I've highlighted this. I'm not some saint or anything like that. It's just, this is my life. This is how I've gotten to where where I'm at today, and it hasn't been easy. Just being a veteran, dealing with kind of the Marcus is really good at tackling that, the red tape, right? The other day I remember we had a conversation, and he's getting off work and he's going to help somebody, dog get a shot because there's this nuance as to why, the person can't bring the dog in. It's just like, it's always this like, well, you signed the dotted line, but you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus is trying to, target. It's like it doesn't, there shouldn't be all these nuances and kind of like roadblocks, placed in front of veterans. And I'm not like, I know people like TBIs and all types of stuff. I'm not saying that like a red carpet should be rolled down for me. It's just that these are the experiences that have happened to me, and I know that they can't be much better for somebody else that maybe did have that those traumatic brain injuries and stuff like that. My hopes is to shed light on that and to help people and how do they approach that. And I know Marcus, your organization does a great job of doing that. And I don't know, maybe I can say this, maybe I can't, but like organizations, they're given money and grants and stuff. They got to fight for these grants, but then it's like when it comes to like helping a veteran out or even a particular individual, it's like Marcus says it the best. There's this red tape. There's this, well, you got to fill out this checkbox and this checkbox. And it's just like, there's been times where like, when I was, I've been homeless before, right? When I came out of the service, I was homeless. I didn't have anything. But it was just kind of like, oh, well, you got to do this checkbox, do this checkbox. And it's just like, my biggest thing is it's like, you want me to go and be homeless so I can get into this program? That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? I think about the times where people have told me that it's like, I got to go be homeless to go, get, just like, what? That's mind blowing
That
because
still exists today. You sometimes have to be literally homeless before resources
oh,
get.
I know, brother. Yeah, I know. And that it shouldn't be that way because I've had a successful life since the Navy, right? And I'm 31 years old. I imagine those times that I wasn't told that how much more I would be successful. You know what I'm saying? Like that's time on your life, right? And don't get me wrong, there was choices and decisions and consequences that I made, but it's still like, well, I'm sorry, you got to go be homeless. I remember in a particular program, this is before I landed the job at Amazon. Like I wasn't trying to get into that program to stay there forever. I'm trying to get up on my feet so I can provide for myself and never have to worry about being in a program like this ever again, But they were like, you got to stay here for one more month. But it wasn't so much for me, it was so that they could get paid. You know what I'm saying? So like, so here I am, I'm trying to go and be the best that I can be, and I got to stay in this program for or they wanted me, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go get this job. It's gonna pay me money and get me to where I need to be in life, so I never have to do this again, right? It's kind of this, again, this self sabotage of like, oh well, you need to, and don't get me wrong, you sometimes have to pivot and make necessary adjustments, but like never again will I have to go and be homeless so that I can get help that I need. And you know what I'm saying, like take for example your organization, 1 ounce of what is it, prevention, I don't know the exact phrase, but like just a little bit of intervention can take off miles, right? I can imagine, you probably didn't think that with just a little bit of help that I got from you, like you know what I'm saying? People, you don't really know which way people are going to go, but I'm hoping that I can inspire other people and show them that, like, helping somebody out isn't necessarily a handout, right? It could be that one decision that makes them skyrocket, that makes the flower bloom or something like that. So it's, despite whatever is going on in life, right? People go through things. We're human beings. We're not, we all, you know what I'm saying? I told you guys a story about, I literally came home and it was Jarhead and my son's mother was some other dude. I'm like, what? Just like it's life, things happen. We can't, that's something I couldn't predict. That was something I couldn't control. Initially I probably had a bad reaction to it, but it's just like,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just, yeah. I mean, just like, I mean, I'm upset. You know what I'm saying? You got to
Yeah.
understand my background too. That's the hair to my throne. Like, yeah, I want to be involved in his life. You know what I mean? I didn't just leave my country to, or to leave my home to come home and not be able to do that. So, yeah, just I hope that people are able to learn from this. Marcus' organization is great. As far as like breaking the red tape, because again, nobody should have to like go through that. My opinion is a lot of mental health, and maybe I'm speaking to whatever, but a lot of mental health, in the veteran community is attributed to how they're treated. And that's just facts. I'm not saying that I've had all bad experiences, right? I've been fortunate enough to kind of know the ins and outs. You know what I'm saying? I've always positioned myself. I knew where I had to be. I did paper when I was in the Navy. I was a desk jockey. So I knew, I had that was I never knew how that job would translate. I was upset when I got the job. I'm like, man, they got me pushing paper, you know what I'm saying? But like, that job enabled me with skills, to get me to where I'm at right now. And so, I'm very, very thankful for that. I'm very thankful for my command at the time when I separated, because they really did help me out. And, even today they still help me out, whether, directly or indirectly. So I'm very thankful for that. But again, I hope that, people are, motivated by this and to, most importantly, like if you need help, it's okay to ask for help, right? Because we've all been through things, and I think, veterans, we sabotage ourselves as like, oh, we've been through so much, so we can, like, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? It doesn't like, and I think, I'm stubborn. I'm very stubborn. Everybody was telling about me, like, dude, you're stubborn. I was like, I'm not stubborn. I'm just persistent. And yes, maybe sometimes I do things the hard way because I don't have to, but it's just, you don't have to be that way, right? Because there are people that want to help you and help, it doesn't have to be monetary, right? This right now is not costing Marcus or anything except our time. And it's Sunday. I'm just preparing for a lesson. But one of the things that I'm hoping people can grasp from this is whether having a conversation with somebody. Prior to this, I was fired up, and Marcus is like, "Oh, you're fired up," and I had a conversation with somebody for about 10, 15 minutes, and I got him real fired up. He's like, "Man, you're a real good motivational speaker," and I said, "This is just my life, man." You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the things that I've been through. There's no motivation here. It's just that, like, I gotta. When I woke up this morning, the first step, dude, make your bed, right? And in order to change the world, you have to make your bed, and that's I forget the admiral that wrote that was in the Navy, but that's just, I have a knack for wanting to help people, right? That's just part of my DNA. That's why I served, right? I had that in me, but unfortunately, sometimes you got to help yourself before you can help other people, and sometimes you can help the wrong people. You know what I'm saying? And that's happened to me because I see the best in everybody, bro. Just because I have not so a golden background, and so like I believe that if I can do it, that they can do it, but sometimes it's just not the case. So yeah, I hope that people will go out there and help people, whether that's having a conversation with somebody, grabbing somebody's groceries or whatever it may be, having just simple interactions and speaking to people. Even this right here, I feel like this is sharing because I'm sharing my story with individuals, and I'm hoping I'm using my voice. 2 weeks ago, kind of where I, Matt now is like people knew about me, but they're like, dude, we can't see you. Like you're being quiet. Like, why aren't you using your voice? And last week during a meeting, to do business with the federal government, a brother came on there and he said that, he said, all you got to do is come in this room and say a couple of things, and you're not doing that. And I felt like he was talking to me because people could see me. They're like, yo, he's starting this aerospace company. He's doing the things. It's like, yo, this dude could probably doing it, but he's not saying anything. We can't hear him. And so that was kind of like again, it was just like, the time is now, brother. I think about where the world is and where it's going. It's like people need to speak up and pursue their dreams, right? This country is good. The federal government, right now, there is a big push for people to do business with the federal government, and they want individuals like ourselves to do that. You just have to put in the work and, just show up, right? Look, I told you guys before, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I've utilized a toolbox that I've gathered throughout my life that the Navy has, given me, and I've just applied those to my life. I don't have a perfect life, man. I already told you guys, I got a son back home that I don't see, that I love very much, and that's something that weighs on me. But again, I have to, move forward, right? We all have traumatic things, and again, I was fortunate enough I never had to see combat, right? That's just the wasn't that I got lucky. That's just the job that the Navy gave me at the time, right? I didn't have a say in that. If I could go back in again, I'd send me over. I'm willing to do that. But I feel that people that may have worse off elements and stuff like that, you guys can do it too. I think 2 years ago, Phoenix had they had like the disabled Olympic Games, didn't they? I don't know if you remember. Yeah,
Yep.
but just like that was inspiring to me because I was just like, all right, dude, if these, what I'm saying, if they're out here, getting to it, you can get to it. You know what I'm saying? And that was something I maybe didn't talk about at the time, but that like inspired me. I was just like, yo, I was just like, they got a whole Olympic league. I was just like, whoa, I was like, this is crazy. I was just like, all right, let's go. So,
Right.
that just as much as I influence people, I'm influenced by other people, right? And they may not know it. It's just that's just how I got. You just got to put your voice out there, man. And, hopefully somebody will listen. And then I know that's what marketers are trying to accomplish, and too with the red tape. Just keep your head up. There's help coming. There's people that do want to help you. It's just that a lot of times too, I've been through the VA system and stuff, man. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just not the right time. Maybe it's like I think about if I was given anything, earlier and I didn't have like this sense of like maturity, I wouldn't even with Fox, I never made that type of money before, right? And I can tell you this right now. I didn't learn how to manage money until 3, 4 months ago, right? Fidelity started hosting this cast. I've been, real hesitant because it's just like, where's the money going? I just didn't know how to manage money. I got all this money, but I didn't know how to manage it. But that's okay because you know what? When this next opportunity comes, I know exactly what to do with it. And I'm hoping that I'm able to like inspire people. It's never too late to just get up and start something new. But kind of like we spoke about earlier, it's taking that risk, right? And then failing because I remember even building this business or getting to where it's at now. There's been a lot of failures. There's been phone calls with me frustrated, like I have to go back and do something again. But if I would have just gave up, I wouldn't, be in the position that I'm at now. Starting a business is not easy. And this will be this is my first, dude, it's like, and especially when you're by yourself, you're the legal, you're the admin, you're the marketing, you're the everything, right?
Everything.
Until, somebody sees you and they're like, okay, hey, we might be able to help you out. But just like, that's just, why not? You're going to spend the same efforts and resources into getting a job. Like, I think about, and this is my experience. I'm not talking smack on the state of Arizona, but I had like 4 interviews with the state of Arizona. That's a lot, dude. I've seen these people 4 times. And if you can't understand that I'm good for the job, then it's just like, it's tiring. It's mentally draining, because at the same time, I'm trying to start a business, right? And that's when I kindly made that switch. After my 4th interview, I was just like, I could spend just the same amount of time, putting the same amount of energy in my own thing and doing my own thing, and the results would still be the same, right? I'd still, get interviews. I still talk with people about employing my business to help them out with their IT solutions and stuff of that nature. So, that was a real snap for me. It was just like, let me just put that 100% back into me. Not that I don't mind working for anybody, but just that same energy that you put into, another company, you can put into yourself and get back the rewards. Now, I'm not a rich man. I don't make the same money that I do when I was working at Fox right now, but I know that something down the road is coming, right? Because of my mindset. I know that all this work and all these trials and tribulations that I'm going through right now are setting me up for the next thing. So I know how to handle the next thing, which will be bigger than the last thing, as my life will show that. My life it wasn't like a trajectory like this. It's always been like it's been stagnant. It's always been about the progression. There's a Navy SEAL. What is his name? It's Goggins, David Goggins. He wrote that book. Yeah, David Goggins. He kind of reminds me of my ex-fiance's dad, right? And this is a dude that fought during Nam, but he was so humble. I remember during one of our, me and his daughter at the time were going through something. This dude had been homeless for like 10 plus years. He was in the service during segregation, and he made a moral injury. He married a white woman. I'm just, that's, and they kicked him out because of that, not because he was a bad, just because they loved each other, right? And that, I think she was like the daughter of like the CEO, and just things were bad for him. But that one that affected him and his children's life. You know what I'm saying? So he was homeless for 10 to 15 years. He didn't know anything about VA systems, none of that. You know what I'm saying? And that was part of my mission, is, setting him up for success. I think he now still works at Amazon, but that was my mission at that time, to say, okay, like, I gotta help this dude out, because he was here before and he set the way, right? And now he's dealing with homelessness, and just like, his family hated him because he's homeless. I'm like, this dude's not even a bad guy. Like, this dude got like, she got screwed more than I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, royally. And so I remember he was living with us, and me and her are going through it, and like, I had a tendency to take my anger out on him, right? And he would just say to me calmly, he reminds me of David Goggins, his voice. He's like, I'm not here to like disrupt you. And he would always say that to me, just like calmly, like, I would get mad about something, and like, I just inadvertently would like be directed towards him, and he'd be like, I'm not here to like, and I finally knew what he meant, right? He was telling me that I was on the wrong path, right? My anger was getting to the best of me. I was getting rid of my blessings and letting my blessings, being diminished because I was angry, right? And unfortunately, you can't change the past, right? The thing with my son's mother, like, it is what it is, but at that point in my life, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to comprehend with it. I didn't know how to talk to people about it. But like, he was telling me like, hey, dude, like, I'm not here to disrupt your life. Like, he's seen people die in Nam and stuff like that, but he's here to say that anger is going to get the best of you, and you have a good life, and you need to carry on forward, and I'm very thankful that, I'm thankful for that interaction, just because, again, that was an interaction with the veteran that had served before me that inspired me to get to where I'm at now. So
Awesome. So if you had to talk to a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-olds who say, you know what, I want to get into this cloud, computing stuff, I want to launch rockets, what's you can give them 2 pieces of advice, what would you say that would be?
I love how you throw the launch of rockets, because people are just like, that's not possible. It's possible. You got to know what you want, right? So this person, that you see before you, I've always known, again, what I wanted to do. It was the trajectory and how I was going to get there. I always knew I wanted to do computers. I just wanted to do it the most cost efficient way. I'm not afraid to say that. I didn't want to. The reason, people, they take out, thousands of dollars to go to school, and I've been able to accomplish that without that. So my best advice to individuals that are young is find out what you want to do, and then, sit down and write out a plan on how you're going to get there. is serving your country for 4 years. Not only is it a great thing to do, but just the amount of people that you meet, the values and lessons that you learn from that experience will set you up for success. Most people are like 4 years is a long time. It is a long time. I mean, I look back and I'm like, wow, that was quick. I was talking to somebody the other day. They're just like, what do you mean you only did 4 years? Like you did 4 years. What I'm trying to tell you guys is by the time that 4 years is over, you're going to look back and be like, where did that 4 years go? A lot of you people, when you're that young, it's not a big portion of your life. So I'm not trying to like say, oh, join the military, but just that was my path, right? So if you're trying to, be successful, is sit down and write out a plan, figure out how you're going to get there, and then implement those steps, right? There's going to be things that you can't plan for, but just you're going to have to, pivot. Like my accident, it could have gone the wrong way, but I was able to pivot, position my company in a good place to where it's at now, potential win contracts from that. So who knows? The world really is yours. You just have to have that mindset and go towards it. And the rocket part, that just kind of was like again, I've always knew, that I could do that. I think, the biggest thing has been like, well, you don't have an aerospace degree. Not yet. The funny thing about it is when I got here in Arizona, I was enrolled in ASU. I just never took that first step. I was like, I was scared. I was nervous. I did everything up to, actually submitting my transcripts. I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. But then after the accident, I was just like, yo, I can do this, right? So my aerospace engineering degree, that's something that I do want to work on. And, again, I have this kind of experience in the cloud industry. One thing I'd say is being able to receive feedback and being able to learn, right? So I do teach this cohort, Mondays and Thursdays for about an hour, but I went on and I spoke to these people and I said, hey, I know you looked at my LinkedIn. You're just like, oh, oh, this guy's a professional. But I want to tell people is like, I'm just like you 4 or 5 years ago. I just took the right steps, right? And you'll get a lot of the thing is you'll get a lot of opinion on what way to do it. You just have to know what's good for yourself and take that step. I think the biggest thing was just like, well, you could do that for free. You could do it for free, but you're not doing it for free, right?
Right.
And that's just factual. So whenever I schedule myself for like an exam, right, I always do it a month out and I pay for it. Why? Because then it holds me accountable. And sometimes people need that accountability. So, maybe they don't mind spending $8,000 versus the, $40,000 to go to school. But again, some people never take that step. They just sit there and criticize and say, oh, well, I could do it for free. Well, you could do it for free, but you're not doing it for free. So I think that, being able to be like nimble and, being able to learn new things. I just finished this. The cool thing about me and where I'm at also is like I believe that anybody can be taught anything. I mean, that's just the premise of life, right? When we came out of the wombs, we didn't know how to walk. We were taught to walk, right? So with cloud computing, even I had the fortunate experience enough to kind of work in the DevOps realm practically, right? And so it's been able to, I can go in and take a test like that because I've done it practically. And so I just finished, a course, this DevOps course, and people are like, well, why did you? It's like because it shows my ability to want to learn more. Even though I just did it for 2 years, me going to get a professional certificate, it just recertifies, that information. Like not only did he do it for 2 years, he went and took an exam, to kind of like harden that knowledge. So I tell people be willing and able to learn, right? Because if I just stopped my learning after the Navy and said, okay, I was petty officer 3rd class, I got all these awards, life's over, like I'm done, I wouldn't be in the spot that I'm at in my life today, right? I would have just kind of stayed stagnant. It's because I've been open and receptive to feedback. And sometimes people aren't going to say the nicest things about you, but I think that people are genuine about that. They see the good in you and they want you to be better, right? And they see that you can better. So they're just saying, hey, these are where you think we need to make, these improvements. If you have that open mindset and you're able to, receive that feedback, you'll be successful for the rest of your life, no matter what you do, whether you're in the fields, being a farmer or, working in cloud computing, just be, able to receive, feedback from people and, you'll be successful and you'll take off. Another thing is take the cloud computing in bite chunks. The knowledge and the experience that I know now, and there's people that way know more than me that are, super whizzes, but it took time. It wasn't something that I got overnight, right? When I first started, that kind of was my thinking. I was just like, I'm going to get into cloud computing and it's going to be like that. It's not like that because there are new services released every day. And I'm going to tell you right now, even my old bosses could tell you they didn't know every service that was released right then and there, but they had a willingness to learn and wanting to learn it, right? Half of the job is being able to look up code and connect the pieces saying, hey, this is what's broken here. Even earlier, we were having an issue with, the setup and stuff. It was just like, oh, okay, let's go, let me look it up and see what we can find. Just that willing to problem solve it's going to want to, set you up for success. And even if you get the right answer or the wrong answer, people are going to see that you want to solve the problem. They're gonna like, yo, we need somebody like that to come in and solve that problem. Like it's gonna come around full circle.
Fantastic. So, in a perfect world, let's say 7, 10 years down the line, where do you see your company?
Oh man, don't even get me started, Mark. Oh God. Um, man. So these are things that I'm thinking about. I think that the first 2 years, it's gonna be this consulting thing, right? Because it's gonna be able to pay my bills, excuse me, and take care of myself. But uh I've also been thinking too, I don't want to relaunch or what's the saying? Reinvent the wheel, right? So I had this, idea in my mind. I was just like, what if I just hitched a ride on Elon Musk's rocket, right? So I've got this idea to where, potentially, making space modules that can be uh, not congruent, but can be interchangeable with, Musk's rocket platform and, potentially take, uh, rides to space. The thing about space is, they're saying that that's the next, talk about Star Trek, that's the final frontiers. There's a lot of movement, right, as far as like logistics. And the reason why the federal government pays Musk a lot is because they're sending a lot of things up to space, right? And that's for a reason. So I believe in 7 to 10 years, my company will probably be a company that either provides that service or am, working with other companies that already provide that service and providing, logistical needs, whether that's equipment, and NASA just released this RFP for satellite, telecommunications, just, look, just like positioning yourself in the right time, proper planning and, execution. So I think that, I don't know, people taking a look at my website, but, people have probably looked at it like, yo, this is crazy. There's no way you could do that. I don't have the capability today, but if I stay the same trajectory, that will be a possibility. So if I'm not launching rockets, it's either going to be I'm supplying, some type of, software system or payloads to support future missions for the United States. I'm really excited. Space Force has really taken off. But the cool thing is anybody can do this. You know what I'm saying? That's what I really want to get a point. Is like you just have to sit down and want to be able to do it. And that's just what it comes down to. So.
Well, give yourself a plug. What is your website, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
and get a hold of your services?
Uh, can I like put? Oh, I can't put it in the chat or anything like that. So the best thing to do would to follow me on LinkedIn. So my name is Jeffrey Ensor, Ensor, or you can visit www.prblemssolved aerospace.tech. Now, all that stuff is on my LinkedIn page. I have a LinkedIn page for my company as well. But yeah, if there's anybody out there that needs like, IT consulting or anything of that nature, or just you want me to teach some courses or something like that, you can inquire within my business page and I'll get back to you.
Outstanding, outstanding. Hey, Jeffrey, man, thank you for your time. This has been an outstanding interview as far as, from start to finish, the ups and downs, and, most importantly, cutting through that red tape. So, I definitely appreciate you coming on the platform. You guys, please do me a favor. Go check out his website. Go, check out his LinkedIn. Get on the platform, see what this guy's talking about. This dude is smart, man. This dude is real smart.
I wouldn't say that, bro. Again, it's really just a toolbox that I developed, right? And using those tools and knowing where to be at the right place. I mean, you're a smart man as well, brother. You're not in the position to where you're at in your life because you're not a smart man, right? And so, like I tell people, the proof is in the pudding. It's not like it's just, anybody can do this. You just have to sit down and do it. And the thing about it is it's about teaching and telling your story, right? My mentor that came into my life, that's what he's doing is telling a story, and that's inspired me to go out and want to tell my people to hopefully, inspire a younger generation and let them know that, hey, anybody can do this. And especially, and again, I don't want to be on the, the whole brother thing, but look, like my mentor says, he's like, he's a black man. And like, just like other, groups of people, they help out their people. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to give out this knowledge to anybody, but like, when I walked into that shop and I heard that young individual say that, I'm like, dude, what? No, that's not, you don't got to be Indian to do this. Like, you could do this, brother. Like, this is something that you could do. There's black men in IT that, that are, taking the charge and leading the way. So I'm hoping that, again, really I'm able to inspire people. Marcus, you inspired me through the work that you help with veterans because I've been there and I know what it's like. And I'm hoping that other veterans, can seek out the help that they need and just know that somebody does care about them. And, sometimes, unfortunately, like if circumstances don't always like line up and work out the way that you want them to, but just know that, there's light at the end of the tunnel and, good things will come your way.
Fantastic, fantastic. And as you said, if you want to support Veterans 5 and 9, definitely we could take donations. But the biggest thing I'm looking for right now is I'm looking to build this YouTube platform. So you guys, if you're watching this, please do me a favor, subscribe. I need to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's where I can get, access to ad revenue through YouTube, and that'll really help me have a sustainable funding source to be able to provide for veterans and service members, as I see fit, and cut through the red tape. So that's it in a nutshell. Again, hey, you guys go check out Jeffrey's, LinkedIn, check out his platform. You got two people right here trying to do it. So, support, support. So,
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, you guys, thank you for tuning in. We're definitely going to end this episode right here. And again, tune in next week, next Monday, when I drop the video again. And we'll hopefully have, another guest, more information, more stories to cut through the red tape. So please like, share, subscribe, and support everything. Peace.
Thank you, guys.